Hello and welcome to Talks. I'm Kimberley Dondo, and in today's episode we also have...
I'm Dan Cooper, news editor.
I'm Tom Browne, editor.
And I'm Cathi Harrison, CEO of Verve and Verve Foundation.
Amazing. So you are, I think, our first guest of this year, which is amazing. And the Verve Foundation has had a big evolution, I guess, over the last 12 months. So can you tell us a bit about what that's been like and what the challenges have been and what you are most proud of? I'm sorry if I gave you too much.
No, that's a lot there, yeah. Well, I'll just ramble until you tell me to stop.
Yeah.
So I think the thing with the Verve Foundation, or maybe to understand about it in the first place, we launched it kind of during COVID, so it was 2021 when it started. And it initially came from just the frustration of people often saying, like, there's not enough people choosing a career in finance, we need more people in. Like, I've been in finance 20 years, been saying that for 20 years, but like nothing was changing, and it was just really frustrating. And during COVID, everybody, obviously there was huge redundancies in retail and hospitality. So I just kind of thought, okay, well, there's hundreds of thousands of people losing their jobs here, and we're over here saying we need new people to come in. Can we not do something? So that's how we launched the first initiative, which is like the New Talent one, where we raise sponsorship, attract people to careers in finance, and use that sponsorship to fund their qualifications. And then what happened from then to sort of last year is we'd built an extra initiative, and then we did one for advisors, and then we were doing like the incubator programs. So it was always built, it wasn't built with an end goal in mind. It was kind of, we tried lots of different things and they were all doing brilliantly. But then what I had the chance to do last year was kind of step back and say, okay, all of this stuff that we're already doing, now that we've got some kind of proof in it and what works and what doesn't work, is it being done in the best way it possibly can, or actually do we need to kind of revisit some of it? And then, as I do once I start in things, it kind of pulled it apart. Basically just ended up like rebuilding from the ground up. So we've got kind of, we built a whole new website, built a whole new impact video. We built impact reports and kind of ongoing tracking and monitoring of everything that we're doing, so that the sponsors that help have got something that demonstrates what they're doing. And then even the programmes, they were doing great, but I got feedback from everybody who'd been through them and said, like, you know, what could we be doing to make them better? So then rebuilt all the programmes as well. So it has been a lot.
What's the main thing you've learned throughout all of that sort of picking apart journey? You know, the whole thing of like you start with no real end goal in mind. You do a lot of trial and error, and then you kind of go, okay, we need to change this. What was the sort of big takeaway from all of that process?
I don't know if there was just one takeaway. It's... What I found was there was always enthusiasm for what we were doing. So take the New Talent programmes, we would get hundreds of people applying each time we opened a cohort, which again, you know, proved the point people do want to come into finance. But the reality of that enthusiasm, we were trying to set them away with their full diploma, which takes about 2 years, but they're doing that alongside their existing day job and their kids. And actually the energy and enthusiasm at the beginning maybe isn't there 2 years later. Likewise, some of the incubator programs, like advisors would be kind of really keen to start it, but actually if they weren't properly ready at that point to be starting their own business, then they've spent that time, but they're not kind of ready to take that forward. So what I've ended up doing is restructuring a lot of it to capture the right energy and the right enthusiasm from people at the right time, and then just make the programmes, they're either shorter, they're more direct, they're more structured in a way that they can come in, do it, and kind of get straight on. Because, yeah, everybody's got good intentions and then life just gets in the way.
Yeah. Doesn't it just? So do you think, you mentioned about the advisor shortage, which is well documented. And, you know, there are firms opening up their own academies, developing their own academies. So work is being done. Obviously, that route, if you've got some of the big players, they'll go through that academy route and then end up in that firm.
Yeah.
Do you think there's enough sort of independent academies? Are we doing enough to get
Are there any?
truly...
I don't know if there's any independent academies. So no. In answer to the question, I didn't let you finish asking, sorry. No, so I think those big academies, absolutely, they help bring people into finance. And I don't think there's any single one initiative or any single one programme or even like the foundation that can kind of, you know, do everything in finance. We can't kind of improve absolutely everything. So they all play a part. And actually, if they're bringing new people in, maybe those people stay in those companies for a certain amount of time. Maybe at some point they do go independent. So it is still more kind of fresh talent coming in. But to the best of my knowledge, all the programs that are out there at the moment designed to attract people into finance, maybe into advice roles, maybe into other roles, are like self-serving, so they're for their own companies. Whereas with the foundation, it's not for the foundation, it's not for Verve, it's to bring people in and then actually put them into other companies. So I think more of that independence would be a great thing.
And do you think that, I mean, in terms of, well, I mean, there's a couple of issues really. I mean, first of all, the industry, I suppose, is getting better at attracting talent, but then it still struggles to sort of absorb it and develop it, you know. And there's an argument that we're encouraging people into the sector, but not giving them somewhere to go. Where do you think that there are sort of gaps in that pipeline, I suppose?
Yeah. So there's a couple of gaps. One is exactly that. Part of the reason that we launched, again, the very original version of our new talent programme was because I would kind of be on panels and say we need new people in finance, and then would go out into the room in, like, you know, exhibition spaces or whatever at conferences, and people would come up to me and say, but I'm trying to get into finance and I'm applying to companies and nobody will let me come in because I don't already have experience, it's just absolutely bonkers. And then added to that is the difficulties around competent advisor status.
Yeah.
So those that actually do want to advise, recognising even if you get a diploma, even if you get a foot in the door, like actually how do you get that ability to get trained up to CAS status? Because often if you've done it through one of the academies, they're going to lock you in to be in that company because they've put the time and effort into kind of training you. So we do have this kind of real bottleneck in it. We've launched just free route to competency webinars that we do now to help people understand. If you do want to be an advisor, these are the routes, these are your options. You could go employed, you could go self-employed. Here's your pros and cons. It's very much down to people. And we are just in the process of launching, and have just been signing people up last week, a new recruitment platform. So that's very specifically for people looking to come into finance for the first time. And then for those employers who are willing to take people on who don't already have experience, there's now a single platform where they can kind of basically go on and view each other's profiles and jobs and start to pair each other up. So again, there's more and more initiatives that we keep doing to try and address it, but we can't do it on our own.
No. Competency, I can't talk.
It's easy for
Competency
these,
side
isn't it?
of things is brought up a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
And that is holding the sector back.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So the recruitment platform that we've launched, we've partnered with an Australian company called Striver, and they've got this platform already out in Australia where they've been trying to kind of fix the similar sort of gaps in getting new people into finance that we have. But they've got the same issues with a lack of approach to helping advisors get competent advisor status. And one of the models that they have been looking at is actually, can they launch an advice firm but design that firm to, yes, get revenue from clients and giving advice, and actually in particular the low-value clients who aren't getting served as well as they should, but also build into their model that they'll attract the people in, they'll train them through to competent, because obviously you need to be a regulated advice firm to get somebody to CAS, and then they'll release them out into the market for a fee that helps them bring more people in and through. And I think only by a company being that industry minded rather than just thinking about their own company and kind of protecting what they've built, actually building something that's going to push it forward, like only is that the way to kind of really make some progress. But I don't know any regulated firms in the UK that are willing to do that, and I don't want to be regulated. I get asked a lot and it's no.
I suppose, so following on from that a little bit about, Verve sort of supports sort of independent firms as a kind of counterweight to sort of like the wave of consolidation. Do you see that sort of consolidation as inevitable, or is there a meaningful future for small independent advice firms given the growth of, regulation, all these other kinds of things that have sort of, the rise of private equity in advice that are driving this sort of consolidation at the moment?
I mean, yes, I think I love the smaller independent advice firms because I think advice is so personal, and if we want more people in the UK to get advice, if they look and all they've got is 10 large, identical corporations and none of them appeal to them, then maybe they're not going to get that advice. But if they've got 10 independent, quirky ones just on their high street, they're going to find one that they maybe resonate with, that they feel a bit more comfortable talking to, and they kind of go in and get that in the first place. what we're seeing as well, one of the changes that we made through the foundation was for the programme, which is for advisors, typically they're currently employed and they are considering starting their own business. And they want to know whether to go directly authorised or to join a network. We used to do that weekly, but obviously if you're employed, suddenly having an hour in your diary every week might ask some questions. So we changed it last October to a bootcamp format, and we get people together in a room and we spend a day and we just say, we're completely agnostic, but we'll tell you all the information about direct authorisation, what it looks like, how it works, how much it costs, who it's suitable for. Same with networks, when being an appointed rep is appropriate, and if that's the route, how to choose the right network for you. And from that, it just gives them a day to kind of go, okay, I am thinking about maybe starting my own business. And I found a way to kind of streamline doing all the research and making my decisions. And what's coming from that, which is the stuff that I love, like they're all full. People are just kind of applying constantly. So I think there's a real big trend coming away from the consolidator model. But B, whenever they apply and we have a conversation and we, talk about their business model and why they're wanting to do it, they're never doing it because they want to go and build a massive business or because they want to make more money. Yeah. They're doing it because they don't think they can currently service the client in the way that they want to. And it is always about, like, how can I, if the only way to do it is to create my own business, so I can see these clients and I can deliver the service that I think is right. Like that's what's making them make that leap. And that's the stuff that I love, because then that's where, when a client goes to see that firm, the service that they're going to get compared to actually this client's a number and how can we just make it as efficient as possible is completely different. So I do think there's a market. The FCA is doing so much around supporting firms going DA as well. Really starting to kind of streamline it, keep a really high level of quality of firms, but make it easier and faster than they ever have, which I think is all good as well.
And when you are working with so many different advisors through different stages throughout their, I guess, advisor life, what do you see as the biggest blocks or the biggest pain points for them?
I think there's perceived blocks and pain points. So they always think that compliance and regulation is going to be, a nightmare, which was partly why we did the incubator, because they always said, I've started lots of businesses myself and it's a lot, and you're thinking about your clients and you're thinking about your business. As an advisor, you've then got an extra layer of regulatory stuff to think about, so you absolutely do need to. But what they always seem to do is once they're up and running, they realise that's actually not the problem that they thought it was going to be. And I think the blocks or the challenges are just the same as what you have in any business, like external things that you can't control, a little cheeky pandemic or whatever it might be.
Cheeky pandemic. That is such an adorable way to see it.
Yeah. Or they'll start questioning like their fee models or their pricing structure, or maybe what was their preferred investment proposition, something's changed there, or platforms. But again, that's the same in kind of any business. Things just move and you always have this kind of business plan on paper that you think this is what it's going to look like, and the reality is different. But I think that initial fear of there's just going to be so much that I don't know about running a business or the compliance side can hold a lot of people back, and they're always fine with it once it gets up and running.
Do you think there's also a fear of someone thinking, like, I want the obvious progression of my career is to start a business, but am I a business person? Can I run a business? Yeah.
We get a mix of people through. Sometimes they're like me and they go, I always knew I'd run my own business one day, and actually circumstances and the company that I'm in at the moment and things changing has meant that I may be doing it a bit sooner than I thought of. But we did one of our boot camps last week. And one of the advisors on there, he was like, I never wanted to run my own business. I've got no inclination. I've got 2 young kids. It's just not what I wanted to do. But right now, I just think, well, my option would be go and get another employed role. But then if that company gets bought out or PE comes into that company, it's just going to be the same thing over and over. So actually, if I'm going to, might as well do it. And at least I've kind of got that control and I've got that destiny. So it's quite a mix.
Yeah.
We've talked about the advisor gap. Move on to the advice gap.
Yeah.
You've talked about AI before.
Yeah.
I think you've written for us before about AI.
Yeah, meant all on the
AI
Money Marketing website. Can I just say. They're great reads.
Great read. You mentioned, I think you called it AI fatigue. Where, we've been talking about AI for so long now. Actually, people are just becoming a bit bored of it.
Yeah.
Do you think, is it developing as quickly? Have you changed your mind on it? Is it changing and developing more quickly now? Is it moving from kind of being spoken about to being adopted
Implementation.
and implemented. Yeah.
We are seeing a lot more of it, yeah. I think the fatigue came in, I think I was talking about that last year, and I think what happened was it came in partly from all the conversation, which, has to happen. People, everybody's trying to figure it out, and trying to figure out where it'll end in every industry, not just finance. But I think a lot of the tools that got released specifically in finance weren't ready to deliver what they said they were going to. So then people were trying it and then just thinking, well, this is just a waste of time and money. And that's where the fatigue crept in. So when I was talking about it, it was to say, don't let that put you off, because things are going to keep evolving, and they are, and rapidly. And I think there's some of the stuff that's starting to come through now where you can see a real difference being made. But I always say, it's as with everything, people know, like with AI, there's the quality of what goes in, and then there's somebody who needs to assess the quality of what comes out.
Yeah.
The quality of what goes in will always be limited in the same way everything in finance has been, by kind of legacy stuff. So if you've got this amazing AI tool, and it'll write your suitability report as long as you can give it, all of the information on your existing policy, but all of that information is in a basement in, an insurance company's offices, because sometimes you ring up and they literally it's in a basement, we have to go and get it. That's always going to be a limitation, but we are seeing firms getting much more, I think, getting more comfortable with it, finding like use cases where they're saying, actually, this is this is helping, this is saving me some time. Not fully embracing it end to end yet, but I don't think it's there. But there has been progress, which is nice to see.
Well, another thing that you've written about in relation to AI, which is something that I worry about as well, is the whole risk to the talent pipeline in terms of that automation will be removing the very tasks that train future advisors. The whole thing of it doesn't matter that it will get rid of all the donkey work. Well, that's the donkey work is how people learn,
Yeah.
So if it takes away the sort of the donkey work, how do we stop it from hollowing out the next generation of talent?
I mean, that's probably a question for Sam Altman.
yeah. I was hoping for a bit of therapy here.
All I can think and all we can do is keep playing our part. So we've just reopened our graduate scheme. We've always trained our graduates. They would come in, they would do data gathering. This is in Verve, so on the kind of the power planning side, the compliance side. They would do, basic file checks, or they would do reports for ISA top-ups. Like, very little of that exists now, or it's certainly not coming to us because people are doing it internally. So we have to rework how we train them, still give them that same level of knowledge, but it's not going to be on the job like it used to. But I was reading about, I think it was the Deloitte scheme, where they've done similar. So it used to be, say, a 2-year training programme for their qualifications for their auditors. They now condense all of the qualifications into the first 6 months. So they spend 80% of the first 6 months just studying to get the qualifications, because you still need them. And the other 20% is doing like the low-level auditing, but using the AI tool. So you're still learning from that. And then they've started sending them out to do like a 1-month placement, working in like a Weatherspoons, and like just learning people skills again, and kind of saying, knowing how to deal with the general public, and knowing how to deal with, maybe the odd complaint or whatever it might be, and actually reshaping that emphasis of, we don't value you just sitting and going through spreadsheets anymore, but we do value you having the qualification, knowing how to use the tool, and then bringing this kind of human empathy that maybe you wouldn't have got otherwise. I think, I'm not saying I'm sending my grads out to work in Weatherspoons, but I'm also not saying I'm not.
if you do, send them to Weatherspoons in Croydon. That's quite an experience.
There's a training ground.
That's a training ground.
Wouldn't. Yeah, I think the human aspect is really what we need to lean into if we're going to have so much AI doing a lot of these automated tasks.
Yeah.
But is there a certain extent where we have to say, we can't outsource everything to AI?
Yeah, I think there is, and I think there's still the, like I said, the quality check of what comes out. If you ever kind of use it yourself day to day, and you'll ask it a question, and it comes back, and you say, "Are you sure?" And then it'll go, "Oh, actually, no. Oh, right, no."
When you correct it, and then it's like, "No, that was my mistake." You're amazing for catching that.
Yeah, I've got a great story about that. Well, something for off camera, I think.
It is. It's mind blowing when it does that.
But it's
gaslights you as well.
Yeah. You sure? I've seen that one once about how many R's is in strawberry, and it was like there's 2 R's in strawberry, and somebody was going, no, there isn't. Yeah. And they had this conversation for such a long time, and it's so if you hadn't ever been taught how to spell strawberry, you could be making mistakes if you lean on it. Yeah. But I think again, I don't know. I enjoy reading kind of people with polar opposite views on how AI is going to impact finance. And I think there's some people who say the human part of it will become more and more important. And like I'm going to lean that way. Like I do genuinely believe it, and I do know for a fact. Like I always say, I've spent 20 years as a paraplanner knowing that nobody wants to read my reports, and it's fine because they're there for a reason. But I know that it's the sitting down with the advisor that the client cares about.
Yeah.
But I have read articles and like well-researched articles at the other end of the extreme saying, AI can already be that empathetic voice in the room, and it can already kind of, coach clients in that way. So there is, and like I say, everybody's trying to work it out. Nobody knows exactly where it's going to end up. But I do hope it is at that end, and it is the human side of it, and sitting and having those conversations that's going to matter more than ever.
Yeah.
It's partly a generational thing. The people of a certain age are sort of freaking out about this because it's something that's not familiar to them, and it's not something they've absorbed, as part of their, I suppose, intellectual development. But younger people coming up will be just much more comfortable with it.
No,
So,
like there's
I'm
more
talking as an old
backlash.
person.
I feel like I see more backlash with younger people when it comes to
Yeah.
something that's clearly using AI, and the term AI slop is being used a lot
That's
now.
true.
So
I use that too, though.
yeah.
They say that younger people as well are now more likely to go for the face-to-face interactions because they had a cheeky pandemic.
Exactly.
And
And their important years were taken from them.
exactly
true,
that,
yeah,
and they had to learn online, and then they also have they don't have blind trust in things in the way that maybe previous generations did, so they'll question it. And this is before we're even seeing the big AI models really start to monetize it. At the minute, I'm paying £18 per month for Claude. It is nothing. It's not going to stay at £18 a month to give me financial advice. There's already kind of warnings around the amount of data that's gone into that. If Google could always do targeted ads based off your search history, like what on earth are they going to be able to do?
Yeah.
So I do think there's kind of extremes around it. I think there's more, maybe more for younger people to be considering.
We're talking about AI in the future. If we were to sit down in 10 years' time
Yes.
and look at what the ideal financial advice landscape would look like, what do you think, and what would success look like to the Verve as well in terms of that dynamic?
I genuinely would love to see, so what are we now, about 4,900 advice firms. So in my dream world, there's 10,000 of them, and there's loads of small independent ones. I don't know, it costs half the amount it does currently to deliver advice because of all the tech and AI advances, and so much of the legacy stuff started to run off, and actually just dealing with all the modern stuff. And therefore, because it costs so much less, it's so much cheaper to charge as well, so more people are getting it. And I think that's what's key as well. If you have a firm, and this is in any industry or in any role in finance, and you find a way to get super efficient with AI, then that should be getting passed on, and not just, oh no, my profit margins are bigger, because actually that's not going to advance anything. So I think in 10 years' time, that would be the dream, that kind of real efficiency is there, and actually everything's just thriving and more accessible for more people.
So you, just on a more sort of personal level, you mentioned you're the kind of person that always wanted to run your own sort of business. What is, it's a very broad question, but what has that been like, running your own business and having all of that sort of like burden on you, and what are the sort of like challenges you've overcome, and what have you learnt about yourself in the process? As I say, very broad.
This is your life.
So, firstly, I don't know why I'd always wanted to run my own business, and I didn't know anybody who had, but a coach I'd spoken to years later said that she believes, coming from a childhood of just basically extreme poverty, there was something in me that wanted control over my financial future. So that was whatever was kind of ticking away inside of me, but I didn't know what it would be. But then I got into finance, I loved paraplanning, and then just thought, oh, well, I'll just do this for myself, and it kind of went from there. That happened with Verve, and then same as I said earlier with the foundation, I've always just kind of ran at something and then bolted a bit more on, and kind of built it that way. And so what I've learned is I'm very good at that, but not so good at just sitting down and actually creating a plan and like really thinking things through. So when we do our bootcamp days with the advisors, we're really telling them to think of all the ways their business could possibly fail to help them mitigate that risk and try and make it successful. Whereas I never did that. So I always say I started about 18 months ago, not 2 years ago, a wine business. And, just buying and selling wine, but trying to democratise it and make it more lower cost for people with some education. But I didn't think it all through properly, and I didn't work out the logistics, and I didn't consider how I was going to post all of this wine out to people and what happens if bottles break and so on. So I had to close it down, and I had to drink the stock. Very sad.
no.
Yeah, I know.
Tragic outcome.
What a shame.
So many parties that you must have had.
Oh
to
no, the
have.
business is closed.
On day two. Was So I've learned that I run a business in a particular way, and I always say it's not necessarily the way that I would advise other people to do it, and particularly obviously in the regulated, like nobody's getting harmed if I don't sell wine, whereas clients could potentially get harm. But I just think I used to really try and rein it in. I used to mentor years ago, and I had to stop because every time somebody would be in an employed role and have any dissatisfaction, I'd be like, just leave and start your own business. Start your own business. So then I stopped because I just thought that's not always right. Whereas on these boot camps, this is people coming along who really do want to start their own business. They're already qualified advisors. They really care about their clients. And I'm always like, just do it. What's the worst that will happen? You'll go and get another job as an advisor. Like, nothing that bad is going to happen. And never has anybody come through and start their own business and regretted it. They only ever say, I wish I'd done it sooner. So, yeah, I guess what I learned about myself is, like, the stuff that I can do well, the stuff that I can't do well. And, that's all, like, the detail and the plan and stuff. I'm not great with that. And just I'm a very enthusiastic entrepreneur.
You mentioned the early life experiences and the poverty. Was it those experiences that kind of really first made you want to go into finance? Because I always find the psychology side quite interesting. Your early life experiences and your perceptions of money and your experiences with money.
Yeah, I think
leading you to that point. And
there must have been something on a subconscious level.
Yeah.
And it was when I'd heard about somebody. I'd finished uni and I was trying to figure out I was going to apply for HR because I just didn't know what else to do. And I heard about somebody receiving an inheritance of £100,000 and going to see an advisor. And I just thought, I don't know that world at all. Like, I'd never heard of an ISA, I'd never heard of a pension. I didn't have any, anything. So it was that kind of curiosity that kind of led me to find an admin role. And then once I was in it, I was like, this is fascinating.
Yeah.
Like, why don't people know this world? And, I still haven't got any money to put in an ISA, but like, I understand it at least. And then I think that coupled with, like, say, on a subconscious level, there was something in me that's gone, well, actually, how it was growing up.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be for me in future, and certainly not for any future kids. So then there was almost like this control element with, I'm in finance, and if I've got my own business, like I can happily work and still do, 18-hour days.
Yeah.
And it's fine because it's mine and it's going straight back in, it'll come straight back out. And my son will have security that I didn't have. So there is definitely a link in it.
Yeah.
But we get people come through now. We're getting a lot of people changing career who'll come through our new talent programme. And the ones, I love them all, but the ones that I really love are something's happened in their life which has resulted in them going and getting financial advice for the first time, and them having that same realisation of like, oh, this is like, I just didn't know this world exists. And it benefiting them so much that they then come to us to retrade and come and be advisors.
Yeah.
And I think that's the people that are coming in have like really felt it.
Yeah.
And like that kind of impact.
I did a piece last year about life experiences of advisors, and so many people said that it was their own experience of some sort of money incident in their lives that made them, that opened up an entire world for them that was just closed to them previously. It's very interesting.
It's crazy, isn't it? I just don't know how you can get more people to see inside the bubble without having to have a financial disaster first.
That is the only way, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know, it often is. So you mentioned your son in there as well.
Yeah.
So as well as being CEO, how do you balance that? Balance being a mum, balance being a leader. Is that something that you still
new business
find challenging?
Oh,
Yeah.
I know. There is another new business underway as well.
Oh, spoiler. Hot off the press, tell us.
Yes, put that in there.
Do you know what? So I'd had the business for 7 years by the time I was pregnant with Harrison.
Yeah.
And I was still very much in the thick of it. I think there's about 8 or 9 in the team, still kind of worked crazy hours. And I did wonder at the time, like, how am I going to manage a baby as well? How will I deal with this? But I just thought, because it was my own business, because I was already working, like, everything was upside down and I just worked whatever was needed.
Yeah.
So then I thought, I'm putting a child in, but it's all upside down anyway. So it's not like I had a Monday to Friday 9 to 5 and then I had to figure out the child. I almost found the pressure, but then the flexibility of owning your own business made it easier. And like when they're first born, just don't do anything, which is how, literally it was.
Yeah.
It was.
How it changes.
Oh, yeah.
He was a few weeks old when I started the second business, which was apricity compliance, which obviously it's all ended up merging into Verve, because he was just sat there. Well, he was just laid sleeping, and I was like, all right, I'll start another company.
In between feeds, I'll just
Not catch up on sleep. Start a new company. Why not?
But I think that kind of like taking the pressure off myself to think I have to be a certain person or a certain place or a certain day and time. Like I've got, when Harrison's not at school and when he's with me on weekends, like that's it, that comes first, and then everything else just fits around. So, you know, I say no to a lot of work stuff, can never get to any of like the amazing events because we always do them on a Thursday in London, and I've got him on a Thursday. But it's just kind of going him first and then everything else. What else am I going to do? Some housework. I have no hobby.
You can outsource that.
Exactly. That's what dishwasher's for.
But this has been a fantastic conversation, Cathi, and hopefully we get you back next year to see the next evolution of Verve and of the Verve Foundation. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. It's been great.